I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, January the 3rd, start of the new year 2022. Brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Got their regular feeder cattle auction here on Monday, starting back with a full schedule. Got a big sale here for the regular Monday sale. Got 10,000 head, and that's including the yearling special. They've got 50 straight pot loads of yearlings on hand there, guys. They're going to sell them right here on Monday. So that'll be a big sale. They'll have the regular cow and bull auction on Wednesday and then come back on Thursday with a value added program calf sale. Be several thousand head on that deal too. And then at the conclusion of that value added sale, they'll have the primetime livestock video auction right there at the barn following the value added sale on Thursday. So big doings this week at Joplin Regional Stockyards. You guys be sure and get online, dvauction.com. You can view and bid that sale, or go to joplinstockyards.com and check out all the information on their website. The cattle market bulls into 2022. And everything that we lost on Christmas week, and of course there wasn't a whole lot going on, but we did lose a little more ground on your fat cattle trade, what little there was of it. But we more than gained that back on the New Year's week. So we're actually coming into the new year on a full schedule, higher than where we went out after the last full week of business in 2021. So that's great. Fat cattle trade was a lot higher last week on pretty good movement because they were buying for this full week here with no interruptions. So that's been going good. From what we've heard, there was good dispersal and clear out of our shelves, so good demand everywhere, both domestic and for export. Everything going well. Have all your sales will be big this week. Your feeder cattle buyers are going to be aggressive. We saw a few, not many, but a few feeder cattle auctions late last week, kind of in that lull after Christmas and before New Year's Eve. And there was a lot higher. It was just dollars and dollars higher. And of course there were special sales, and that brings out bigger runs and more uniform bunches there and bigger drafts. But just there's a feeling that this thing is going to come out of the gates pretty strong here if the board or something doesn't kill it. But the board was really strong the latter part of last week on your feeder cattle, so that's a good thing. Oklahoma National Stockyards expecting about 8,500 head for their first sale of the new year. We're really dry. I tell you what, the windstorms over the last 2 weeks during the holiday break there were just unbearable. They have sapped the southern plains just completely out of any moisture that there was on the surface. And you know, our winter wheat fields, grazing pastures there, unless they're irrigated, are just they won't support any kind of grazing anymore. So we are going to start seeing cattle come back off the wheat fields already. Normally we wouldn't see those cattle come back until the middle of March, but they just, you can't just keep them out there anymore. It's we got a hard freeze, bitter cold temperatures there right on Christmas or New Year's night. And so now that wheat is literally crawled back into the ground. Nothing out there to eat for those cattle. And going to be a lot of cattle coming to market that normally would have stayed out there and put on some cheap gain and would have kept from having to feed those cattle. But we are going to be short of feed, guys. And it continues to get higher all the time. Guys are looking for hay. Especially in the northern plains, hay is astronomical in price, and we're just wondering if we're going to have enough feedstuffs to last us through if we don't start getting some moisture through the center part of the country. Now out west, they've had some moisture there around Christmas, and before that had some really nice moisture out there. They've been powerful dry for a long time. Hopefully they will continue to see that moisture come in. And they'll have some winter grazing, which is when they usually graze their grass pastures out in California and places like that. But we saw some big snows in the Sierras. We finally got some snow in the Rockies. We haven't seen any snow come in the southern part of the Rockies or down in New Mexico at all. But it's terrible dry, and we've got to get some moisture here, guys. And I know that the winter time is a good time to have a drought, but we've got to get something. We got to get some snowpack. And there was some snow up through the Midwest and into the northern plains in some places, but nothing down in the southern plains. And I tell you what, it is getting scary, dangerous dry. But we'll just have to see our way through that. But we're going to have a lot of cattle being on feed because there's absolutely nothing for them to eat. And we'll just have to see how we can continue to take these cattle to these big weights that your packers are wanting and have been enjoying ever since the backup from the COVID shutdowns, the original COVID shutdowns. And they're getting more of those prime carcasses. They've gotten spoiled. They want those. They're leading people to make these cattle super big, like hippopotamus big. And I don't know where we're going to find all the feed to do that. And it's going to get so inefficient to feed those cattle. It's already costing $1.30 or better to feed a lot of these cattle in a lot of places. And if you were able to go in there and figure what it's costing, your cost of gain, to take those cattle to those big heavy weights that your packers are wanting those cattle, it would cost way over $2 a pound to do that. So it's not efficient to do that. You got to make them pay for it, guys, if they want you to take them to those big weights. And how you're going to be able to afford that, I don't know. Let's look at your cattle futures for your last week of 2021. December live cattle futures. Monday was up a quarter. Tuesday up $1.17. Wednesday was up 92 cents. Thursday back down a little bit, down 35 cents. And Friday down 15 cents, with December live cattle futures going off the board at 138.90. That actually ended up being a little bit lower than what our weighted average was for last week's negotiated fat cattle trade. But still, pretty respectable way to go off. February ended the week last week and the year at 139.70. Look at your feeder cattle, January feeder cattle. Monday was down $1.05, and then it just came roaring back. Tuesday was up $1.15. Wednesday up $2.32. Thursday up 45, and Friday up 55 cents. Did that happen because the grains collapsed? Absolutely not. But just as people are seeing that, cattle are a commodity. People want to eat beef. That's their protein of choice. And we're short of cattle numbers right now, and really short. So we're going to continue to see those stay good, it looks like. But January feeder cattle ended the week last week and ended the year at 166.87. March ended the week at 169.95. Your grains, March corn ended the week last week at 593.25. I have to think and I do believe that we'll break $6 a bushel on this corn. It is going to be a very negative effect here on your cattle markets, and so if that continues to go forward, and I think it probably will, once we break $6 on your $6 a bushel on your corn for your nearby contracts, that's going to be kind of a bearish signal. So kind of watch out for that, guys, and it could happen this week. It could happen here today on Monday. March Kansas City wheat, 801.5. It's actually backed off some because it was up higher in the $8 a bushel range. March soybeans, 1339.25. So they're getting up there in your mid 13s there, and that's awful high too. Let's talk about your fat cattle trade through Wednesday of last week, because it didn't have any government reports on Friday. So Thursday they had to round up through Wednesday. 56,800 head. Pretty respectable for just 3 days. Pretty darn good, and guys got kind of aggressive out there, and we basically didn't see any confirmed trade in the southern plains. So to trade almost 57,000 pure negotiated cash just in the northern plains, that's quite a bit of trade. Your live sales, steers and heifers, 138 to 142. That's $2 to $3 higher, and your weighted average through Wednesday on live steers was almost 140, 139.88. That's about $4 higher than weighted average from the previous week. Your dress sales sharply higher from 220 to 226, with a weighted average on dress steers still on the low end of that at 220.85, but that was still up about $3.50 compared to the previous week's weighted average on dress steers. But I believe will be some more trade here, and we did have some trade on Thursday. Didn't see or hear of anything on Friday, but there was more sales. They're going to come in here whenever we get everything rounded up for last week, because they started selling some cattle $3 higher in the Southern Plains at 138, and they didn't get very many of those picked up. Excuse me. But Iowa on Thursday sold 900 head confirmed, almost 30,000 head for the week, 140 to 141 late week sales, dress sales 221 to 222. Nebraska only about 400 head on Thursday, almost 28,000 there. I told you they were all in the Northern Plains. Just dress sales on Thursday at 222 in Nebraska. Kansas sold about 1,100 head on Thursday and only 1,500 for the week. So that's telling you that there was some more trade that'll be confirmed that we'll pick up here on our next visit as a total wrap up. But late on Thursday, that's all they had confirmed. But 138, like I said, that's $3 higher. Texas about 3,400 head, and that's all they've had for the week, and that's at 138 too. Box beef cutout values starting to increase in value there. Your choice cut, your weighted average of all last week's sales, 265.03. That was $2.89 higher than the previous week's weighted average. And late week sales were just about that too, at 265.26 on your latest sales last week. Select weighted average on all of last week's sales, 256.65. That was $5.56 higher than the previous week's weighted average. And your late week sales were a couple bucks higher than that. So should go in with a head of steam on your box beef cutout values, which will kind of appease your packers a little bit there too. Let's talk about what other kind of markets do we want to talk about? How about the replacement sales? And this is one of your big replacement sales that were held through the holidays there at Burwell Livestock Market in Burwell, Nebraska there. Standing room only for the Holiday Cow Classic that was held on Wednesday of last week. They sold, now this is in the Sand Hills of Nebraska, and these are the best cattle that walk. But your bred heifers bring roughly from $1,700 to $2,000 per head, with a few fancy heifers up to $2,175. Your younger bred cows in Burwell for the holiday special from $1,600 to $2,100 per head, with a few of those younger bred cows as high as $2,375. And then your middle-aged bred cows there at Burwell selling from $1,150 to $1,575, and this is all the way to your short and solids, with a few of those older or middle-aged cows up to $2,000 per head. I was in South Texas on Wednesday of last week at the Cattleman's Brenham Livestock Auction there in Brenham, Texas, and of course that's where they have the bred or the crossbreds down there. A lot of those F1 Brayfords, and you guys that live north of I-40, you guys think that those cattle belong in a tiger's cage. Some of them do. But you get that heat and humidity down there where those palm trees grow, and the regular predominantly English cattle just can't take it. And those F1 Brayfords still bring it all. They had young bred cows there, easily bringing $2,000 and rings full of them, guys, pretty much all day long, with some of your younger bred or pairs with 200 to 300 pound calves at their side as high as $3,000 for a F1 cross Brayford Tiger Stripe. But still a good market there, and you guys check out and see what your local market is for your bred cows. But all of these prices are things that I projected would probably happen sometime this coming year. I had no idea it was going to happen the first week or the last week of last year or the first week of this year, but still awful high prices there. And wait till we talk about some of these feeder cattle auction prices that I told you were awful high. But your feeder cattle market, your real-time index ended the year at 164.51. Now that was more than $9 higher than the previous week. But you remember there was a few sales that were held the first part of Christmas week, and then it was just some oddballs and things like that, and it just sucked those index prices way down. And then we came back with some special type sales the end of this last week, and the market was better too, and they just came roaring back. But 164.5 based on an 800-pound steer, that's a pretty salty market right there. How about some late week sales last week? Fort Scott Livestock there on New Year's Day, they had a big special there and sold a lot of good cattle there, and they did have some yearlings there. Look at these loads and double loads of yearlings right there, most of them weighing in the heavy 8s and 9s, with one stick out deal there. 64 head, 859-pound yearling feeder steers there in Fort Scott, Kansas at 161.75. But the big special on feeder cattle last week was on Thursday at Mitchell Livestock Auction in Mitchell, South Dakota. 6,700 head there. Federal State Market News called the market compared to 2 weeks ago, which would have been just right before Christmas there, the week before that. Your feeder cattle, steers and heifers selling $3 to $5 higher, with spots as much as $8 higher, and the prices were just unbelievable. How about some heavy warmed up feeder cattle? And I've been telling you guys, the heavier they are, the better they sell in a lot of places. 63 head of 1,020-pound big feeder steers in Mitchell, South Dakota bring 166.10. But the cattle that really looked high to me, especially for what it's going to cost to feed them, 79 head weighed 735 pounds at $180. But look at this biggest quote that we saw late last week, and it's your National Beef Wire top quote of the day. 164 head, 636-pound thinner steers bring 198.75. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.